Okay, in this lesson we're going to explore what are called translations. And before we get too complicated here, I want to make sure you understand what this word means. This word right here, translations. That word right there basically just means to move something. I'm going to change locations, but I'm not going to change its size, its shape, its orientation, meaning I'm not going to twist it, turn it, flip it, rotate it, nothing. I'm just going to take it exactly the way it looks and move it to a different spot. And if you're asked to move it based on a vector, well, that's just saying, here's my instructions of how to move it. There's these little brackets, which means this is a vector. It's not a location itself. But this is still the X instructions and the Y instructions. That's telling me how to change each one of those points. Now let's think about this visually. If I look at this vector, this says X is -3. What that means is I'm going to change the X coordinates by 3 units in the negative direction. Okay, to put that more simply, it means I'm going to take each one of these points, and since X is on this axis right here, I'm going to move this in the negative direction 3 units. Okay, so I'm going to move it 3 units over. Now I'm going to do the same thing with this point over here. Okay, so I've moved 3 units based on that right there, this -3. Now, I'm going to look at the other number. This is 2. Positive 2 units in the Y direction. So from where I'm at there, I'm going to move 2 units. 2 units in the Y direction. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take where I ended up, I'm going to draw some endpoints there, and notice if I draw this segment, it pretty much looks exactly the same as the starting one, it's just in a different location. Okay, now what is that location? Well, let's see if we can figure that out. This point was at 2, and then I subtracted 3. So this point would end up at -1. That's my X coordinate. Okay, it was at 2, and then it looks like I added 2, positive 2 to it, so it's going to end up at 4. Okay, and based on this rough drawing of a graph, it looks reasonable. What about the other one? Let's go over here. It was at 5, and then I subtracted 3, so it's going to end up at 2. This one was at 5, and I added 2, so it's going to end up at 7. But notice my image, which is this one right here, okay, that segment is my image. That looks exactly the same as my pre-image, okay, the one I started with, but it's just in a different location. I haven't changed it at all. I've just moved it to a different spot. And that's really all you need to know about translations, no matter how complicated of drawing you get. If you were to get a triangle, all you have to do is identify a few easy-to-read points like the corners or the vertices of the triangle, and then all you're going to do is the same thing we just did. You're going to move them based on your instructions, and then if it says we're going to move them up, okay, we move those up, and then you're going to draw dots wherever they end up, and you're going to draw in your new image. Okay? So it's just taking it and basically shuffling it somewhere on the page in a different location.